Welcome to WRBPS Radio, the HOA that comes to you live from the top of the Rocky Mountains overlooking Salt Lake City. Are you web ready?
Woohoo! Nice job from Dennis. We love those fun intros. Well, welcome everybody. We're so glad that you've joined us today for our Web Ready Radio and to help you get ready to have a great online presence. We're really fortunate today because we've not only got our Google guru here, but we've also got a special guest for you. Her name is Stephanie Sims. And Stephanie is an amazing person that if you need help with finances, she is the go-to gal. Stephanie is a recovering investment banker, champion of business owners, and she has more than a passing acquaintance with the F word, finance, of course. What did you think I meant? She is on a mission to change the way that business gets funded, and her first step is educating owners. To that end, Stephanie is the founder and catalyst behind Financeability, a new way of looking at your business and what it's worth. Through its website, assessment tool, and glossary, Financeability is the perfect resource for small business owners that are asking themselves, am I ready for financial partners? How do I find them? How does this whole funding thing work? I need help. Does that sound familiar? Financeability will help you discover what it takes financially to take your business to the next level. It's easy to understand language and at a pace that's right for you. You have the ability to make the most of your finances and find the money that you need to start to grow your business. So this is all about finding those right partners and how to go about putting together the resources you need to grow your business. So I'm going to turn the time over to Dennis and Stephanie. Welcome.
It's so fun being back with you, Stephanie.
Yes, I was laughing. We were talking about it in the green room. We're like, are we going to start on time? Or is it going to be a typical show where we don't start on time? But thank you so much, Leslie, for having me here. And, of course, Dennis, it's always a pleasure to hang out with you.
Yes, yes. We've had plenty of time hanging out together, the two of us.
Well, we're grateful to have you with us too. So, and grateful that at least we were close to on time because there's always technical difficulties of some sort.
Yeah,
so.
It's just the world of HOAs. There's always it was audio this week.
But we're here, so awesome. So what have you guys got for us?
Well, I don't know, Stephanie. You're really driving this ship.
Okay.
I'm just going to corral you from time to time and bring in comments. Quickly, just want to shout out to John Dietrich, Dave Pipe, and Roxanne Davenport. Thanks for showing up, guys. And hopefully, as is typical, we'll have a few more people start to filter in and take up the back seats in the room.
We like it. Great. So take it away, Stephanie.
Okay, well, thank you guys very much for having me here. I know that it's always difficult to talk about money, and so I appreciate that you're willing to give me a forum to do that, and I will do my best to make it as interesting and as painless as possible. A lot of people ask themselves, well, wait a minute, what does finance have to do with website or my social media presence or any of that? And I think the most important thing to remember is that building a website costs money. Investing either your time or your money into social media is also a cost to you, but you still got to run your business. Okay, so what we really want to think about as we're talking today is the big picture of what you're doing in your business, and then help us understand how that generates some money for social media, website, and all of the other stuff that we need. Okay?
Awesome.
I would like to make a suggestion that we talk about 4 different things, and we'll go through them individually. But first I want to ask you to change your mindset around your money. So that's the first thing we're going to do. The next thing we're going to do is I'm going to suggest that you have it your way. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that means.
That always sounds good.
Yeah, I love having it my way.
That always sounds good.
Then we're going to talk about how to make every penny or dollar or yen or euro or whatever count. And the goal of all of that is so that at the end, point number 4, you can know your worth. Because ultimately, what did you get in business for? Most people didn't get in business to work a 9-to-5 job or to take on a ton of risk and not get any reward, right? You got in business to make enough money to live the life you want, but to have enough time to enjoy that life. right? So I think, unfortunately, most of us, we end up on one end of the spectrum or the other. We make enough money to live, but we don't have enough time to enjoy it. Or maybe we're stuck with not a ton of time and not enough money either. So that's one of the...
So many times people buy themselves a job when they start a business. That's all they do. So.
And the big problem that I see is that even if you can make that work for the years that you're actually working, that you're active in your business, what do you do when you get ready to retire, right?
Exactly.
And so it's...
Sell it for the value of the desk.
Yeah. You can have a paperclip auction, right?
Exactly, right? Yeah.
I love it.
Sometimes,
that's a great concept.
Sometimes that's what businesses sell for, is the value of the paperclip. Seriously.
So true.
Well, and it's
Stephanie's going to help us avoid that, right?
Well, that's my goal, and it's really sad to me to see owners who give so much of themselves. You know, they pour their heart and souls into their businesses, but sometimes it's just they don't understand what's going to build value for them and what's actually going to help them get that money that they need to live, but also free themselves up so they get that time. So that's part of the whole changing mindset that we want to talk about, and part of it comes down to how you look at what you do in your business. A lot of people, I think, look at what they do and they say to themselves, I've got to spend money. Well, I think when you talk about spending money, it puts you in this place where you feel like the decisions made, I either did a good job or a bad job, and it doesn't have any long-term impact. You know, most people, they say, well, I wasted that money because I spent $100 on whatever it was and it didn't work out. I would really suggest, though, that you start looking at everything you do in your business as an investment. And so then you don't have to be so worried about, did it work right this second? But you can look at how it helps you long term, because it does two things then. It takes the pressure off, which is always good right now, but it also gets you focused on what you're really trying to do, which is create value in your business long term. So as you're thinking about, is this a good thing to do with my money, don't think about, should I spend my money on this? Say to yourself, is this a good investment? Okay?
I love that. It's so true.
And also, if it's not a good investment, you so you know who's talking, you learned a lesson from it. So maybe it was worth the lesson that you spent that money as well.
Exactly, and sometimes you can look at that as an investment in education.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Maybe at the beginning it wasn't that you thought it was going to be an investment in education, but that's what it turned out to be, right? And so I think really you can look at everything in your business as an investment, and that can help you get the right mindset. For some people, for example, rent. You know, say you rent an office space. Well, I think a lot of people don't really think that is an investment. But if you're going to be spending $1,500 or $2,000 or $10,000 or whatever the number is per month, it needs to be a driving force behind moving your business forward. It can't just be, well, that's what it costs, and I don't really think about it before I invest.
Well, and as far as the rent example, I think you're going to think a lot more about the space you're going to be in. If you're thinking of rent as an investment, you're going to make certain that that investment is going to have a return. And location, style of office, or lack of location if you're an online business, all of these things are important decisions that if you're just spending money, let's just get into a place, we need some space. But if you're thinking of it as an investment, you're going to change how you look at that space, and you're going to make a better decision.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I'd like people to start thinking about it. Rent and kind of hard costs is one part, but another place where I see a lot of people struggle is with salaries. Not necessarily their own. Most people don't have a problem paying themselves. But when you start either to work with someone as an employee or even as a contractor, as a solopreneur or a small business, it's very hard for us to part with our money. But instead of looking at the amount we're going to pay to someone who specializes in websites or who specializes in a social media presence, instead of looking at that as a necessary evil, I have to pay for this, it's just I have to spend this money, ask yourself the question, am I investing in this person so that they can be a partner with my business? and they can really help me move my business forward.
Exactly. And that's so crucial because your mindset is everything, I think, in business. I'm always saying that you need to think about things in terms of resources and ROI. So if you are paying a salary or you're contracting with someone to provide a service or whatever it is, hopefully that service or whatever you're contracting for is going to bring back more money, right? So that's the whole idea behind that. So you just carefully look at where is it best spent first, but it's always an investment. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think it's hard, though, for some of us because we're so used to kind of, okay, but I don't have much money, so let me circle the wagons and let me spend as little as possible. And I think changing the mindset to investing also can help you free that up because then you're not saying, well, I have to see the immediate return. You're saying to yourself, okay, this particular thing, I know it's going to take 6 months to get in place, but at the end of 6 months, I realize I've set targets and I see how I'm going to measure if it was a good investment or not.
Absolutely.
So I think that's another interesting perspective. It was funny because I was looking at the outline for today. I had put in something that you've heard, I think, before, Dennis, and I heard you guys talking about Ammon in the green room, and I was like, oh, they're going to laugh because Ammon, talking about websites and particularly investing in your website, Ammon Johns, who's a huge,
amazing,
I'm a huge fan of his, and who is actually someone who's incredible in terms of his marketing brain. He always says that your website is like a full-time salesperson. It never goes on vacation. It never has a sick day. It never calls in and says, no, I can't make the meeting. But you need to invest in it accordingly.
Absolutely.
That's a great
It's the hub. It's the hub of your whole business these days. So it's extremely important to make sure that you do it right and that you invest in it what you need to get the results that you want.
Yeah. And that's something, what I'd like to do is as we talk about these different points, kind of bring it back to, your website and your social media presence so we can see how it applies. But, keeping in mind that these are pretty global concepts, we want to look at this for every type of investment we're making in our business. So that's my pitch for changing your mind, changing your mindset, if you will. The next thing that we talked about wanting to do is having it your way. Okay, so we laughed about it because it's something everybody wants to do, but I think when it comes to investments, sometimes people don't understand what that means, right? What, have it my way? Well, I can either invest or I cannot invest. I think the truth is you need to understand what is important for you in terms of the investments you're going to be making, which means that you need to identify the reward, the benefit you're going to get from the investment you're making, and weigh it against the risk. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. The good news is there's no right answer here. Everybody has their own way of looking at risk and reward. I always use the example of going to the movie theater or riding a roller coaster or jumping out of a plane.
It's a great analogy, isn't it?
Well, pretty much all of us can agree that the risk of seeing a bad movie is probably outweighed by the low price and the reward of just getting 2 hours where nobody bothers us. So we can probably all agree that that's a decent risk-reward return there. On the roller coaster thing, I hate roller coasters. I hate to be scared. And so there's not any amount of money you could pay me to get me on a roller coaster. But I know there are people who would wait in line for 3 hours to ride a roller coaster. So
thank goodness, huh? Or Disneyland and some of these other places would be in serious trouble.
Exactly. Well, and already we can see that there's room for everybody, right? For some people, the roller coaster is a great deal, and for other people, the roller coaster is just a no-go.
Right.
Yeah. And then when we get to the plane example, hopefully it's a smaller group of people that would be willing to jump out of a plane.
I would.
Yeah, I would.
I have.
Oh my gosh. Oh, you're so rotten. Rub it in. It's on my bucket list.
Seriously, Leslie, you want to jump out of a plane?
I do.
Yeah,
only
me
with
too.
a parachute, though.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, with a parachute. But
I have paraglided, which when I decided to do that, it was one of those face your fear and do it anyway. And I thought it was what I have now learned is base jumping, where you run off the edge of the cliff and wait for the parachute to go up, go out. But I was really, really happy to find out that paragliding, you just kind of already have, they call it your wing, but it's like your chute. You already have that in the air, and you just float off the edge of the cliff like Mary Poppins. So that was a wonderful experience.
I want to float like Mary Poppins.
You should. They're just right over here by my house.
I know.
You
She
float
lives
off the
really
cliff.
close to one of the best places for paragliding in the
I
country.
do. Amazing.
Yeah. Literally, you drive by there, and you could, on any given day, you'll see 30 people. That's how
incredible.
good the air is right there.
Yep. Yep. So, yes, I would do that. And, yes, I want to jump out of a plane. But only with a parachute. So I am limiting my risk, right?
Right. Well, exactly. And I think there's a price at which, if somebody said to you it's going to cost you your salary for a year, you might not be so keen on jumping out of a plane, right? There is a price at which it starts to be less attractive to you.
That is very true.
And
$200.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and maybe that's part of it too, is that there are more people who would like to do it, but it just is too expensive right now. I don't know. But the idea is just to get you thinking about the fact that everybody views a specific situation in their own unique risk and reward perspective, and that's okay. Just because somebody says you need to build the biggest, conference banner, whatever you do when you go to a conference, you don't have to do that just because somebody tells you that's what you're supposed to do. If you would rather go with one big sign and a stack of business cards because that fits your budget and the type of investment you're ready to make in that conference, then that's the right decision for you. Sometimes it's hard because, not everybody agrees with you, but you didn't go into business to please somebody else. You went into business to get your business off the ground in a way that makes sense for you, right?
Exactly.
Okay, we gotta take this. Dave Pipe says, I have jumped for charity on a couple of occasions. Still odd to jump out of a perfectly good aircraft. Before we got too far away from that conversation, I just wanted to bring it.
And I
Jump
think
for charity. I like that idea.
Yeah.
I would jump for charity.
Well, and that's where we see what a smart guy Dave is. Why would you jump out of a perfectly good airplane?
But he's done it anyway. So is he smart? I don't know.
Well, I guess what we could say is at least he jumped in full awareness of the risk.
There you go.
Exactly.
And for a good cause.
And for a good cause.
Right.
Always worth a good cause.
Exactly. And so we've kind of joked around about this, but realistically what you want to do is you want to listen to your initial reactions when you're thinking about investing. So if somebody comes to you and they say, I can do something and it's going to be so amazing and it's only going to cost you $50 a month, if it sounds too good to be true to you, you either need to ask some more questions and get more information, or you probably just need to conclude it's too good to be true.
Well, and the beauty of the internet these days is you can research anything, right?
Exactly.
So go Google it, right?
Go Google it.
Go Google.
Go Google.
Well, and you can sometimes, like we were talking about earlier, sometimes what you consider is that the investment of your time, or in that first month of service or whatever, was an investment in education for yourself. So don't ever be afraid to say, oh, I signed up for this, so now I have to stick with it. If you get into into a partnership or into a situation and it's not working for you, don't keep spending money just because that's what you thought you were supposed to do. Realize, hey, you know what? This is my investment in education, and now I've invested enough. Let's move on and do something different.
Well, and sometimes that's the danger of letting your ego get involved, right?
Right.
Avoid that. Listen to your heart. Listen to your gut. Because your intuition's usually pretty accurate if you get the ego out of the way.
Yep. Well, and it's the same on the flip side, right? Someone may come to you with a really great proposition, and they've got this wonderful idea, but it requires you to go on a public speaking tour, and you're petrified of public speaking, and you don't think there's any way that you could possibly do one presentation, much less 10 over the next 2 weeks. That's your intuition or your heart telling you this might be a great opportunity for somebody else, but it's probably not right for you right now. So like you said, Leslie, it's hard because you don't want to not stretch yourself. You want to give yourself a little push, but you can't put yourself in a situation where all of a sudden you're completely uncomfortable 100% of the time with the decision that you made. So
right. I love that.
Guideposts.
I love that visual that shows, you know, the box, and then it shows the person outside of it. You know, it's got the circle of the comfort zone, and it's like everything you want is right outside your comfort zone. I love the idea that you need to stretch and grow, and that's not comfortable. But you can still a lot of times have in your gut and your heart the knowledge that that is what you need to do, even if you're totally resistant to it. So sometimes you just have to take that leap of faith, but you also have to use common sense as well. I mean, you can't do one without the other, right? You've got to have both.
That's
and
why
make your decisions. Yeah.
That's why you need a parachute, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and it is hard because it's not a cut and dried rule, but that's where changing the perspective that you've got and not putting so much pressure on yourself to make 100% right decisions every single time can help, because then it frees up a little space for you to be able to listen to what your heart is really saying. And if you're willing to admit maybe that wasn't what I needed to do, that can also help you, because then you don't feel like, okay, well, I have to stick with this thing because I said I would. People are going to think that I made a mistake. Who cares? It's all information. It's all learning. And like I said, consider it an investment in education.
Right.
That's what you need to do.
Ammon's got a great point on this, aside from his comment to Dave Pipe that dragons are supposed to fly. This one was really good, too. Fail fast is something that applies to relationships and ideas, not just to whole businesses. When something isn't working, the sooner you know it and admit it, the sooner you can move on to something that will work.
And I love that. I have a little saying that I learned from Jack Canfield when I was training with him, that it's failing forward. You know, it's really not a failure as long as it moves you forward. So learn from those mistakes and hopefully learn quickly, right? That's a great comment, Ammon. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, and it's one of those things where once you can take it as, I'm not a bad person, this just didn't work, you can use I think it was Einstein or Edison, I don't remember, who said, I haven't failed, I've only found 10,000 ways that don't work. Right?
I love that. I love that. And there's lots of tools that can help you make decisions too, right? I don't know if you were planning on talking about anything like that, but
yeah,
I know when you're talking about.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna try to focus a little more on the website piece, but if you've got tools, to help us talk about ROI or to help us set goals and then measure them, that would be great.
Well, just one thing I was thinking about, because we were talking about funding, right? And I'm sure that you probably have seen this a million times as you're helping people get funding, but there's things out there like the business plan canvas, which I'm sure you're familiar with, and you can find templates for that all over the internet. This is one example. I don't know how well that you can see it, but you can get those things on the internet, and it helps you walk through and think about, who are your key partners? What are your key activities, key resources, value propositions, customer relationships, channels, customer segments, cost structure, revenue streams, things that a lot of times when you're starting a business for the first time, you don't know about this stuff. But especially if you're going to look for money, these are things that you're going to be asked. But even if you're not looking for funding, I think going through and filling out one of these business canvases, business plans, that it's really great at helping you identify your strengths and your weaknesses so that you know what things to make an investment in and what things that you don't need to. So just one little
That's a great point. And something that we've actually created at Financeability is an assessment. Once you kind of have those elements, who your customers are and you understand, how you're going to approach them, we have an assessment that can help you understand, okay, based on where I am today, what type of funding am I ready for? because I think that's something that happens too, is there's so many options that sometimes we get very confused, and either we take the first person who comes along, which may not be a good fit for us, or we just kind of close our eyes and we're like, okay, I don't know what's happening, but I don't even want to know.
Yes, exactly.
And the issue with that is, of course, at a certain point, you do need some capital to grow. You need some money, and you're kind of cutting off your nose to spite your face if you just kind of stick your head in the sand and say, I'm not worried about it. And since there are a lot of options, you definitely want to pick the one that's right for you. So I agree with you, Leslie. I think there's plenty of free resources out there that can help you. And of course, shows like this, and plenty of people write blog posts. I mean, it's not lack of information. Sometimes it goes back to what we said about understanding what's important for you, and that you're getting the right information and helping yourself feel comfortable that you're informed to make the right decision without getting too far into information overload.
Exactly. We don't want analysis through paralysis through analysis either, right?
Exactly. And it's a hard thing sometimes, But in any case, I hope that we've done a good job making clear what it means to have it your way, and the fact that just because a decision is something that some expert or someone did and worked in their business doesn't make it right for you.
Exactly.
So, don't feel bound by Mark Cuban, and I love Mark Cuban, it's not a critic on him, but don't feel bound because he said it, well, that's the way I have to run my business. Ultimately, it's your business, and you need to do things that help you, like you said, Leslie, stretch yourself, but not spend your life in torture.
Exactly. Nobody wants to spend their life in torture.
No. And so...
And I do have to point out that Mark Cuban loves to brag about the time he spent $100,000 at a bar. And so you really don't have to do things, and you probably can't do things the way Mark Cuban does. No. Okay? I'm just saying.
I agree.
Be the best you can be. Don't be a second-rate Mark Cuban, or anybody else for that matter.
Yeah, and think about what is that return on investment. I don't know what that would be in the bar. It would be worth that.
Made a lot of contacts. I bet they made a lot of contacts.
Created a lot of love.
Yeah. He was celebrating some big win of one of his sports teams. I don't follow sports, so I can't remember which one. But
that's funny.
If we were cynical, we'd think that he was going to make his money back in blackmail, right? As he was over there taking pictures of everybody.
Good point. Good point,
I'm sure he wouldn't do that. No, I'm sure. So, yeah, I think that's exactly right, Dennis. Ultimately, it's your business, and you need to be investing in a way that helps you stay sane. Comfortable maybe is not the right word, but that gets you, on the right blend of stretching but not being a nervous wreck, because you can't be productive when all you're thinking is, oh my God, why did I spend that money? I shouldn't have done that. That's not good. You need to make an investment decision that lets you walk away from it and come back when you're ready to evaluate it, instead of thinking about it all the time because you're so worried about it, or you perceive it to be so risky.
Well, and life's too short not to have fun, right? And you're going to spend a lot of hours working. So find ways to make your business be a joy, not a burden.
Yeah.
Don't do it otherwise, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ammon came in with another comment that's right in time with what we're saying. Growth is painful. If you are comfortable, it is highly unlikely you are doing anything to grow.
So true.
Yeah.
So true. Yeah.
Yeah. I would just say, and I love Ammon, you're totally right, but by the same token, you don't need to be uncomfortable in every single area of your life all at the same time.
Well, and uncomfortable and in pain are two different things too.
Exactly. So, it's a balance. It's a balancing act, which is part of the reason that we love being in business for ourselves, right? Because we get to pick.
Absolutely. We get to pick. We get to have it our way, right?
Exactly. That's right. So the next thing that we were going to talk about was how to make every dollar count, right? And if you want to look at it as, building a portfolio of good investments, for those of you who actually like finance, that's kind of how I look at it. But what you really want to do is you want to look at what you're investing your money in, and then one of the first things you can do is see if there are places that you're investing your money now that aren't necessarily getting you where you want to go. So how can you do that? Because people are like, oh, but what you need to do is do a detailed financial statement analysis, and you need to print out your general ledger, and stop that. That's nonsense. You can do that later, okay? But it's nonsense to start there. You really just need to ask yourself 2 questions. When you look at money that you're investing, does this increase my sales in a clear and measurable way, not in a, well, if I put this out there, maybe someday someone will see it and maybe they will buy from me way, but in a clear and measurable way, does this increase my sales? Or by making this investment now, am I able to reduce future expenses or even current expenses right now? Okay. In the first case, I'm thinking more of marketing expenses or investing in your website, things like that. And in the second case, I'm thinking, for example, of investing in someone to help you, be it a contractor or an employee. Because the biggest expense that most business owners don't consider is the cost of their own time. You only have 24 hours in a day, just like everybody else. And if you choose to spend the 8 hours of your working day with tasks that could be completed by somebody whose time is not as expensive as yours, then you're actually losing money.
So true. That's very true.
Yeah. And so, you know, that to me is one of the first analyses that you can perform on your business, is you can look at everything that you're spending and ask yourself those 2 questions. And if you can't identify a very clear and measurable way that what you're investing gets you either higher sales or lower expenses, including freeing up your own time, you need to stop. You just need to quit doing it. And here's one of the best examples.
There's a really great YouTube video, if you get a minute. Go on YouTube and look up Bob Newhart, Stop It. It is a great little video to watch, and it just plays through my mind, and when I find myself going down those paths and that little voice is chattering, I'll just visualize that YouTube video and just say that to myself. Stop it. Just stop. So it's a great one, and it keeps you laughing, which makes it a little less painful. So,
and I think you're right in the sense that there needs to be the stop it reflex, but there doesn't need to be everything that comes after, which is, and I was so silly to do this, and why did I waste my time, and why did I spend my money? You don't need any of that stuff. You just need stop it, and then you can move on to something else.
That's the lesson. That's the lesson.
Yeah. So the one example that I wanted to give is NSF fees or late fees or any kind of charges that you get because you don't pay your bills on time. It happens to everyone, okay? But this is the classic example of an investment you do not need to make ever again.
None of us have done that, have we?
No.
And I know none of us have done it. No, certainly not. But for all those people out there who have, you probably know that an NSF or even a late payment can cost you anywhere between $50 and $150 just for one, right? Think about everything you could do with that $50 to $150, and it'll be easier for you to get the energy you need to put in place a system, for example, using online banking, using auto pay, paying down your debt as quickly as possible as opposed to just paying the minimums. Once you use that investing mindset, you can realize why it's not a great idea to keep paying those fees, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. And the one other thing I would suggest, because I know it's very easy when you have a credit card. I have credit cards. I try not to use them, but it's very easy because it's just there and you take it out. You know, as a business that's starting out, something that can be really helpful are prepaid cards. So instead of having a credit card, maybe you have one credit card for the business, but you run your business off of prepaid cards. So you create an office supply prepaid card and you put $100 on it, and when it's done, it's done. And you have to rethink the investment in office supplies because it's not just you whip out the credit card and there you go, you're paying for it. You have to say to yourself, was that $100 I already spent in the last 6 weeks on lots and lots of paper clips and pretty Post-it notes a good thing to do?
Those paper clips are what we're going to sell, you know?
That's right. They're our investment for
That's right.
when we have to sell the business.
They need to be solid gold paper clips. That's all I got to say.
Exactly.
So what you're saying, though, Stephanie, is basically the old envelope system done with plastic. So it's plastic envelope system.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good idea.
That's true. Or just use your debit card. As long as you watch it, so you don't have those.
Yeah, but what she's saying is if you tend to overspend in certain areas,
it's a great idea.
Yeah.
And the benefit of having a system like that set up is that as you bring people into your business, you're teaching them how to be a good steward of your money, of the company's money. Well, that's a great way to do it, because then they can't go crazy. They can only spend what's on the card, and they know they have to be accountable to you for what's actually spent, invested.
Nice.
I say spend a lot. I should stop that.
Yeah, that's great.
So, you know, it kind of does double duty. It helps you right now, but it sets you up for bringing other people on as well. So it's, you know, something to consider, and an easy way, for example, to cut out those fees, which, like we said, do not give you any return. All they do is use your money. So invest in that education once, but please don't do it more than once.
Exactly.
Yeah. So as we're looking at the different things that we can invest in our business, we also need to talk about this kind of short-term versus long-term, which we mentioned early on. But you need to keep in mind that there are things you do right now that are going to increase sales or decrease expenses, right? That's kind of your litmus test. Does it increase my sales in a measurable way? Does it decrease my expenses? But you need to think about the future value of your company as well, because as we talked about, nobody wants to work until they're 80 years old. Or maybe they do, but they want to have the choice to work until they're 80. They don't want to have to work until they're 80.
I want to have the choice.
Right. And they want to have the choice to say, I'm going on vacation for 3 weeks, nobody call me. And not have their business go into the toilet because they weren't there for 3 weeks. So we need to think not only about right now getting sales and increasing sales and decreasing expenses, but we need to think about things that are going to build value into our company. Okay? And I think, again, one of the most important things to consider is the value of your time as the owner, and the most important thing that you can contribute to the company. Because unfortunately, it's very easy to be busy, but it's a lot harder to do something that actually uses the unique skills that you have. At the beginning, you may not have enough resources to be able to get all of those small things done by somebody else, but you need to at least know what they are, so that as you build your resource pool and you're ready to invest in some help, you have things you can hand off to those people and say, I want you to handle billing, for example. I want you to handle vendor payments. I want you to take care of customer service, right? If you don't set those things up, then when you actually have the resources to invest in someone to help you, you may spend 3 weeks with them sitting there going, what do I do now? And that's not, again, you know, it's an investment in education, but try to benefit from my education, and don't make that investment for yourself. So I think that, you know, one of the ways we can look at this, and we haven't talked about websites, I'm trying to bring it back to websites because I know that's something that, you know, that we all consider, websites and social media. I think one of the things you want to do is you really want to identify what your website is going to do for you. And if it's going to be your salesperson, then you need to invest in it as you would in a sales force. So as you need to reach out to more customers, then that's probably the right time to start investing more in your website, right? Or as you have a new type of product offering, or as you have an opportunity to reach an entirely new target market, that's a good time to invest in your site or in your social media presence, because that would be the time when you might call someone up and say, hey, I need you to find me 50 new clients. Here's what you need to do. So really kind of link those two things together, so in your mind, you're investing at the right points in time, not only just because you got the money sitting around, but because that's the point when you can really grow and you can make a big leap forward.
That is so true, because I know it's like building a house, right? You can't frame the house until the foundation's built. And it's the same with, I have seen so many businesses that go out and they spend all this money on, social media or on Google Ads or whatever it might be to drive people to a site that really isn't prepared to capture any ROI for them. And so they've just put that down a rabbit hole. I mean, it's a complete waste of money because they don't have any way of getting a return on that investment. They might drive people to their website, but if you don't know exactly what you want them to do once they're there, and if what you want them to do doesn't have ROI attached to it, seriously bad decision. So
Yep.
Making those decisions in the right order, like you say, is absolutely crucial.
Yep. Well, and I think the other thing to keep in mind is if we can free up some of this time, like we're talking about, if we can prioritize what we're working on, those are the kind of decisions as an owner that we need to be making, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so is now the right time for me to go all out within my budget on an AdWords campaign? But if you've got your head buried in, I had to call 3 clients because they didn't pay me today, you may not be able to get enough space and clarity to make that decision in a way that helps your business the most. So it's all kind of linked together. But if, to me, if you can really change your mindset and you can really understand what's important to you, what it is you're trying to accomplish, then you can ask yourself those questions and make it make sense for you.
So
Exactly.
what if what you're trying to accomplish interferes with what other people are trying to accomplish? I mean, what if that's not their goal, but your goal is to try and, like in a sales situation, say you're trying to sell something or trying to get someone to join you in something, and I mean, how do you work with that?
In terms of other people being after the same client, or I'm sorry, I'm not totally understanding the question.
No, so let's say like an MLM per se.
Mm-hmm.
Your goal is to make whatever it is you're trying to sell work,
Right.
but it's not their goal. I guess you would move on, but how could you inspire them to make it their goal, or to,
Someone in your organization or your actual client?
both.
Okay. So I think you were onto the right thing with your client. Part of being in business is realizing that not everybody is either interested or ready for what you offer, and so at a certain point you have to quit investing your time in chasing that particular client and decide, I'm going to either redefine my market because this person isn't necessarily very attracted by what I offer, or I'm going to look for a different person in that same market because this particular person just isn't ready for me. And again, it doesn't have to be because I'm a loser or because my product's no good. It's just, this is not a good fit, and now it's time for me to focus my time and energy somewhere else. And everybody, I think, has a different cutoff point for that. But I think at the point in time when you're getting the feeling that they're not responsive, you're better off to walk away at that point and try something else. You can always come back to them.
Right, and I mean, that again is one of the key things, is knowing exactly who your customers or your partners or whoever it might be are. You've got to understand who you're trying to reach, especially when we're talking about online. Who is my exact customer or client or person that's going to buy this product or whatever it might be, right? Because if I'm my age, and you're trying to sell me prenatal vitamins, that's not going to do you any good, right?
Of course not. Of course not.
So you just got to really.
I might want them though.
Oh, okay. I'm worried about you, Dennis. But you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah. And also, sometimes no matter how much you think somebody needs your product or service, if they don't think so, then you're wasting your time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Which means
And
you're going to be wasting your money too, right, Stephanie?
Right. Well, and your energy and, all those other resources that we have, which as an owner, there's a lot that's on our shoulders at the beginning. So we want to try to use our resources wisely. How about that?
Right. Ammon had a great comment about opportunity cost, about, being very aware of those kinds of things. Oh, yeah, here we go. When looking at costs, never ignore opportunity costs. Don't be penny smart and pound foolish. You can tell he's English.
Yes.
So we say dollar foolish. But it's opportunity costs is such a crucial part of every decision as well. You need to be aware of that. So that's a great comment.
Yeah, it is. And it gets a little bit back to what we talked about before. You mentioned it, Leslie, about prioritizing. There may be 20 things on your list that you would like to do to attract clients, but your value as an owner is in deciding what are the 2 things that need to go to the top of the list that I can try first, so that then I'm going to earn enough money so that I can try things 3 through 5.
Exactly. It's like when somebody comes to one of our 3-day workshops, we give them lots and lots of choices of things that are going to help them with their business. But as I was saying before, there might be somebody there that doesn't even have a website yet, so it's not going to do them any good to set up their social media because, well, I shouldn't say that, but not to pay for anything along those lines until they have, or SEO, until they have their website ready to, to have a return on that investment. So, yeah, I mean, it's just, there's going to be lots of things that you want to do, but prioritizing is absolutely crucial.
Yep. Cool. The last thing that I wanted to talk about was something that I love, obviously, because it's I think my finger's underneath my tagline there.
Yes, it is. Perfect.
Know your worth.
Know your worth. And this is where you want to put everything together so that you can approach potential partners, including clients, vendors, financial partners, potential employees and or subcontractors, with confidence, okay? Because a lot of times I think we as owners can feel like we've made bad decisions or feel like we're in a bad situation, and that lets us kind of give ourselves the excuse of saying, well, I'm just a little guy and nobody believes in me, and the problem is that translates. People see that relatively quickly. And it's not doing you any good, and frankly, it's not doing the people who you're trying to serve any good either, because they look at you and they think, they can't even get their own act together. Why would I trust them to help me with my stuff? And so you want to remember why it is you started your business. You want to reconnect with the passion you had for helping whoever your target customers are every single time you're going to get in front of them, or every single time you're going to speak to a potential partner, be it financial, employee, vendor, or other, because that passion that you have is at the base of the worth of your company. Mm-hmm. If you can really connect with that passion and you can understand how you offer not only a company that's profitable, right, so that sells more than it spends, that invests, but you can also, as we talked about, reorganize the way that you work so that you're working on what your highest and best value is, and you're getting the most value for the time you spend, then you'll end up freeing up some time so that you can enjoy your life, but you'll also create a business that will be able to run without you. And this, which we talked about at the beginning, is one of the biggest places that owners run into trouble, because they get to the point where they're like, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to work 60 hours a week, 80 hours a week. I don't want people calling me at home on a Sunday. But because they haven't thought ahead of time to set up systems and to actually let go of some of the activities in their business, then they've got to spend 18 to 24 months recreating their business before they can take themselves out. And honestly, when you're in burnout mode, you don't want to spend another 3 weeks, much less 18 months. So as we're talking about this, always be thinking about, what is it that I am not the best person to do? You may have to do it right now, But think about it so that as soon as you have some resources, you're able to bring someone on who can take that task off your hands. And then you can go and focus on the stuff that you're great at.
Exactly.
Yeah, Stephanie, this ties right in with one of Ammon's comments. He says, Stephanie keeps underlining the vital point. Time is not money. It is far more valuable. You can increase your money, but time is finite. Anything you can do to save time is saving you a resource that is more valuable than money.
Yep.
So true. You know, and one other thing that maybe fits here as well, because I know sometimes you can get caught up in I can't afford this, or I can't spend that money yet, or as Stephanie says, invest that. One thing, and I've talked about this with Marisa a lot too, is that, you know, don't always think in terms of money. Think in terms of resource. So sometimes we might not have money for something, but we have to look around and take stock of what resources we have, and that includes who we know, who we could partner with, who we could collaborate with, all of those kinds of things that aren't going to take a financial investment, but rather maximize our time by, you know, doing that collaboration or partnering or different things like that that bring resources to the table that you might not be able to have the money for, but that you certainly have the, you know, the mental, emotional capital for, that kind of thing. So think about things in terms of that as well. Who do I know, you know, that I can help them and they can help me, and that way everybody benefits. So.
Yeah, and that's something that as you're thinking about that passion and that reason that you started your business, that's where when you're talking to people, in that particular case, for example, say that you have a vendor, it so happens that they have a service you need and you have a service they need. If they really believe in your story and they see how passionate you are about your business, it might make sense for the two of you to swap service. Instead of you paying them in cash and them paying you in cash, you can always create a kind of relationship that doesn't depend on let me write you a check. And a lot of times those types of relationships can lead to a lot bigger reach, because that person, having benefited from your story and also from what you offer, becomes one of your biggest proponents. They can be out there saying, oh my gosh, and this was amazing, you'll never believe, and they helped me with this, and here's how they did. All for the price of conversation and investing yourself and showing your passion about your business to them, which to me seems like a pretty good deal.
Yeah, it's like you say, passion pays, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's not always trading services. Sometimes it's that when you have that passion, that belief in what you're doing, somebody else might, you know, buy into that passion and belief as well and be willing to invest a time or a service or a product or whatever it might be in helping you move forward. Sometimes knowing that there might be a payoff for them down the road, and sometimes just because your passion infects them with passion. And, you know, ultimately, that's what makes life worthwhile, right? To live with passion. So those resources can come that way.
Exactly. And it's one of those things where if you're clear about what you're doing, right, and you can, people see that it's genuine. They're like, this person's really excited and they really want to help. And you're right. Sometimes what that leads to is their brains will start turning and they'll come to you and say, oh, you know what? There's this whole group over here that you haven't talked about, but I think they'd be a great fit for you. And before you know it, you've got an introduction to an entirely new group of people who can benefit from what you have to offer just because you shared what you were passionate about and you explained how you were going to help them.
Absolutely, because the circle of influence has huge value. It's not always all about the money. Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you so much for having me today, and I hope that this has given you guys enough of a general theory, but some practical tips as well, so that we've got some action items we can move forward with. But if not, feel free to reach out to me on G+ or on Twitter, and I'm happy to get connected with anyone who needs help. You can also reach me at stephaniesims.com. That's just one M. Site-MS. Or you can get in touch with me at finance-ability.com.
And you said there's lots of resources on your site as well, right, Stephanie? So
Exactly.
Great place to go.
Yeah.
And Stephanie, really, her gift is in finances and helping you move forward that way in terms of finding financing or looking at your business in a different way where you can find a resource somewhere that you might not have thought of, or shift things or to find resource, that kind of thing. So yeah, check out her website.
Any questions, Dennis? You look absolutely enamored of everything we've said.
No, I am. This has been really interesting. I don't have any questions right now, but I will hit you up in a private chat a ton of times as soon as they pop up. But I do want to point out that next week we won't be back.
Right, we're going to have a break. Oh, we shouldn't say that, though.
We're going to be
doing
live.
Something different.
Yes,
yeah.
Something really cool. Web-Ready Blueprint Systems, in conjunction with Gombach and in conjunction with So Evolve, will be broadcasting on, as if we haven't already named enough people, this is getting confusing, we'll be broadcasting on the A World for Change TV channel a live flip the switch for 2 different solar installations at Burton Lumber.
Right. Burton Lumber is the largest privately owned, locally privately owned solar array projects in the state. They've just invested a lot into sustainability and being environmentally responsible and environmentally conscious. And we held a very large event for them last year when they put it on their corporate offices. I can't remember, 4.5 acres of solar panels.
4.5 acres, and in the past year they've produced 75% of their electrical needs.
I mean, amazing. And that means that when they're producing 75% of their own electrical needs and power needs for their business, that's that much more that can be available to the community that they're not eating up for their business. So, and we could quote a lot of statistics on that. But they've now put solar array projects on both their Layton and their Linden location, and so we've got the mayors of those locations, among other special guests, that are going to be there to flip that switch and turn on those next solar array projects. So that's going to be our live broadcast next week. And then the week after that, we're coming back and we're picking up on what we mentioned last week, which is we're going to do an analysis of, Tana was our guest, one of our participants, our audience last week, and she said, hey, how about analyzing my website? And we thought that was a great idea because that would have huge benefit for any of you others out there that kind of want to take a look at a new website and some of the things that are working, not working, there, or missing. So I think that'll be a great learning experience. So make sure you join us for the Solar Array Flip the Switch events next week, and then the week after that, come back and we'll do that website analysis that I think will be really awesome. So we look forward to you joining us then, and appreciate you joining us today, both here and in Phoenix, right? Scottsdale, Arizona. Is that where you are, Stephanie? And anywhere else that you've joined us from? And
Sussex, of course.
Sussex, England, among other places around the U.S. So
and Ammon, because Ammon's Ammon's in London.
Yes. Okay. Today.
Not really.
Yeah, I was going to say he told me he was not in London.
That's a joke between Ammon and I. Everything over there is in London.
London.
Yeah.
The whole island is London.
Yeah.
So, again, we appreciate you joining us today. We hope that we've provided a lot of value for you and that you will take advantage of the resources that we've provided. I will put a couple of these business plan canvases on my website under resources as well, webreadyblueprintsystem.com, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.